Perspective. Dr. Kaiser Nyatsumba, a chartered director, a turnaround strategy expert, business rescue practitioner, the author of just under 20 books, and a former newspaper editor. Welcome to Perspective, Dr. Kaiser Nyatsumba's podcast that focuses on business, politics, corporate governance, social issues, English grammar, and anything else that takes his fancy. The first talk show host on SABC 1, where he presented Dilemma in Perspective, Dr. Nyatsumba now presents his hard-hitting, no-holds-barred podcast, Dr. Kaiser's Perspective. Hello again to Dr. Kaiser's Perspective. Today, I would like to place the spotlight on the coalition government in Kwazulu Natal. It is a government made up of three parties. The Umkhonto Freedom Party, which has offered, was the provincial leader, leads the provincial government as premier, the African National Congress, and the Democratic Alliance. In fact, there were four parties, the fourth being the National Freedom Party. We know that the National Freedom Party has had a difference of opinion with its member of parliament, member of the provincial legislature. Ms. Shinga also has been an MEC in the provincial government. So I would like us to look at what it means, at what it means to have had suspended and expelled by the National Freedom Party. What are the implications of that for the provincial government? Well, I have here Mike Matabela again, who is my guest. Let's hear from you what your views are on that subject.
Yeah, in fact, that IFP-led GPU government hangs with a thread, precisely for the reasons that you've stipulated, that Mbali Shinga, this NFP member, is likely, I don't know if she's been expelled, but she's likely to be replaced with a pliant pro-MKP bloc member who, if the motion of no confidence against the Nduli-led, the premier, Tamin Nduli's government led, if there's a motion of no confidence being revived, they are likely to lose that. And my thesis here is that you will find a renegade who may be bought to vote with the pro-MKP bloc to catapult the MKP into governance. And a likely person, likely renegade would most probably emerge from the ANC. And then if that happens, the MKP-led bloc will firmly be in government in KZN.
Yeah, if we remember the outcome of the 2024 elections, MKP became the largest party, and I think at 38%
yes.
of the vote. And so it is the party that many had expected would be able to form a coalition with parties of its choice to take it above 51%, so it forms a government. It did not, for a whole host of reasons. At the moment, if you are right, the NFP had taken a decision that it wanted a vote of no confidence on the provincial government led by Tamin Nduli, precisely because it wanted to go into coalition with the MKP. Now, if Mbali Nduli is expelled and replaced with a pliant person, with somebody who would advance the interests of the NFP leadership, that essentially leaves a split between the coalition government and the MKP and NFP. There are 86 seats in the provincial legislature. Together, the ANC and the MDA have 40 seats. And so you will have MKP and
EFF.
EFF and NFP having another 40%. So essentially, there is the possibility of a government continuing. It would limp from time to time, but there's a possibility of not even a minority government, but they would not be able to pass important legislation. They would not be able to pass budgets because they need 50 plus one of the votes. So that's where the danger is. But it does not follow logically that the moment an NFP member is no longer an MEC, the government would collapse because the numbers would still be the same.
Yeah, no, as I've indicated, my thesis is that you are likely to find a renegade who most probably would emerge from the ANC benches, who's likely to be bought. We all have vulnerabilities, and politicians, as we've seen with a lot of the corruption that commission after commission has spoken to, which involves politicians. So we all have vulnerabilities, particularly financial vulnerabilities for most people. So my thesis still stands that a renegade is likely to be bought, who will then say, I am guided by my conscience to break rank and vote for this pro-MKP bloc. In which case, if that eventuality happens, then you will have the MKP-led bloc governing KZN, and there will be dire ramifications if that were to eventualize. Yeah.
Before we talk about the ramifications, let me just concede that the possibility you've just mentioned does indeed exist. It was easier during the days of when it was possible for people to change parties and remain within parliament. But it is no longer the case now. So indeed, it is possible that the MKP could induce somebody to vote with it. It is likely to insist on confidential vote, on a vote not through a show of hands, but where people vote through their conscience, and it might then, when it does calls for a vote of no confidence, it might induce somebody to vote with it, so that there's a majority that is against the provincial government. Now, if that happened, what would be the implications in your view?
But even if there's no vote of, even if there's no secret balloting, I mean, we've seen in the past where people in parliament have openly broken rank. You remember during the times of Zuma when Derek Hanekom openly broke rank and voted. So you don't necessarily need a secret ballot. People can openly break rank with their party mandate and still vote for the opposition.
We also had the situation where Dr. Kwazulu Zuma
absolutely
voted against Cyril Ramaphosa and remained to be in the ANC and remained to be in his cabinet.
Yes.
But at the moment, I sense a higher degree of intolerance on the part of the ANC. So that person is likely to be disciplined and ejected. And of course, they might then be accommodated by the MKP.
Yes.
But there would be consequences. That person might do that, lose his or her seat as an MP, MPL, but be taken care of by the other party.
Absolutely.
That potential does exist.
Yes, the inducement, the incentive for them to break rank with their party would involve things like that, obviously.
So what would an MKP-led provincial government look like? Wow. What would be the implications of that, in your view, for Kwazulu Natal and for South Africa?
Well, that would be scary. Firstly, I think the likely people who would emerge as premiers, in my view, this Nathi Nhleko or Willis Mchunu.
Okay.
Yes. But the consequences of that would be so dire, because if evidence adduced from both the Nugent and the Zondo commissions are anything to go by, we will see looting and pillaging of the coffers of the KZN government on an epidemic scale. It will be on a grand scale. They will be looting, and then in preparation for the 2029 general elections campaigns. So they will be looting these funds and making sure that these funds will then be deployed towards that campaign in 2029.
Indeed, it's a very scary prospect for KZN and a scary prospect for the country.
Yes.
Because, and then indeed, it makes sense that we would hold that view based on historical evidence. Jacob Zuma, as president, ensured that he had a government that was riven with corruption. And he was himself not the cleanest of people. So the prospect of a provincial government led by his party in KwaZulu Natal is one indeed that is very scary, and where the possibility of the things you're talking about is very real. That is another cult. The MKP is even a greater cult than the EFF. The EFF makes it gives the pretense of being a democratic party because it has provincial and national conferences. You just don't go for the presidency, but the other positions, the NEC is elected. Don't if you are Dr. Ndlozi, aspire to be president. If Malema doesn't want you to be, he will eject you.
Yeah, even for the deputy president.
Exactly. But in the MKP, there's not even any talk of any conference at all. The MKP is Zuma, and anything it stands for. And I have noticed in recent weeks that Zuma has been on a campaign to travel around the world. We see him in different capitals, meeting different leaders, as though he was still president of this country. That for me is very, very scary. I wonder what it is that makes those leaders meet him as though he were head of state. I wonder what it is that they talk about. And some of them, as it did in Morocco, where he changed a long-standing ANC and South African position on Sahrawi, and he got funds from that. So there seems to me to be something that Zuma is cooking. Now, if he were to be in charge of a provincial government or of a South African government, there's lots that is to be feared. Now, for me, as I said earlier, it's a cult. I don't see that party existing if Zuma went to jail. His trial is about to start soon. And whatever number of attempts they make to have these appeals, I don't believe that any court will entertain them now. So the trial must start. If eventually he were found guilty, or if, God forbid, he passed on, I would see the MKP dissolving. What's your view of what is likely to happen to the party without the founder and the owner of the party?
Yeah, no, firstly, I do not share the view that he is likely to serve a prison term, precisely due to his advanced age. Even if he were to be found guilty, there's no likelihood that he would serve term. So he would still be eligible to be outside and
so you're saying the country's courts would find him guilty of serious crimes, but stop short of imposing a
custodial,
because of his age,
because of his advanced age. Yes, yeah. And if that were to happen, he would still be outside and have influence and still be able to lead his party. Okay.
And if God forbid he passed on?
If God forbid he passed on, I see ructions in that party. Yeah, I see absolute ructions in that party because there's no one with authority even the deputy presidents, you can see they don't have any authority, any decision-making authority at all. Everything is being dictated by him. So if, God forbid, he were to pass on, I see perhaps his kids, maybe the lady Duduzile, throwing a bit of weight around, and I don't see the membership acquiescing to something like that. So it would then implode. It's likely to implode if, God forbid, he were to pass on.
Yeah. Okay, so do you see the prospect in 2029, with the ANC continuing to have the troubles that it is having, of an MKP running South Africa?
No, that's highly unlikely. That's highly unlikely, because that would take us to what happens at the 2027 ANC elective conference. If, in my view, a candidate of the stature of a Patrice Motsepe emerges as president of the ANC, then I see the government of national unity continuing. That way, the MKP is likely, even the MKP with the EFF, that bloc is likely to continue to be locked out of government.
I have lost all confidence in the ANC. I do not believe that the future of the country is dependent on the ANC. It is a very important player, and I believe that the ANC is rotten to the core. Therefore, I say this to suggest, to support the contention that in my view, it doesn't matter who they elect next year as president. Not even a Patrice Motsepe would hold the ANC together. I see a situation where Motsepe would have stand a better chance if he went the Roger Jardine route and started his own party between now and 2029 and popularized it, rather than if he became ANC president. But the question I want to ask you before I conclude this, what do you think Zuma is discussing in these world capitals where he travels as though he's head of state?
Yeah.
And why do you think he's received in the manner in which he's received?
Yeah, the reception, a warm reception that I noticed was in Morocco, quite prominently so in Morocco. Not so much in Portugal, because I don't think he even met the top leadership in Portugal. But coming back to your question as to what is being discussed, I am thinking he's going there raising funds, making all sorts of promises that if he were to become president of the country again, there would be benefits that would then accrue to these countries that he visits.
Okay, we know that he can't be president of this country again. The constitution does not allow that. This is not a Zimbabwe where you can serve your term and then amend the constitution. He's already served 2 terms. So he could serve a term by proxy, as he tried to have his ex-wife become president, so that he could give instructions, but he can't possibly be president himself. I would like now to turn, in conclusion, to the ANC SACP ruckus that is taking place at the moment. The SACP wants to contest the 2026 local government elections
in fact,
on its own, and the national government elections in 2029. And there is, at the moment, a fierce battle between the two. What do you make of it? And what, in your view, are the prospects of the SACP doing well in these elections?
When I left home to come here, actually the SACP with Mapaela leading that, he's the leadership of the SACP. They were hosting a press conference, and they were talking precisely about that and emphatically saying they are still resolved to contest the 2026 local government elections. But going by what has been happening during the by-elections, they have performed so poorly, so dismally. In one by-election, I think they walked away with only a paltry 70 votes. So you can't take people like that seriously. I do not think they will even cobble even a seat, a PR seat, a proportional representative councillor seat in anywhere where they will contest. I doubt there will be something to even think about.
Yeah, I find what is happening very interesting, because some of us in the media, when I was in the media, and Mbeki during an interview foresaw a period when the two will go separate ways. But the SACP continued to be a leech on the ANC. It could not stand on its own. And now Mapaila believes that they have the potential to win votes on their own, and I don't believe that they do. Most South Africans are not communists, they're not socialists. They don't stand for what the SACP stands for. That would explain why the SACP has held on to the ANC's coattails for so long. Now, when the NUMSA launched a Socialist Revolutionary Workers' Party and contested elections, it was humiliated. I do think that the SACP will come back to the ANC post these elections, or post the 2029 elections,
tail between their legs.
With tails between their legs,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
they will find that they are a tiger on paper, but the electorate is not in the favor.
In fact, I recall an incident during the 2024 general election campaign. Mapaila was in KZN, and he was billed to address a crowd at a sports ground. And that had to be abandoned because people didn't show up.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
And then that shows you that they don't have clout at all.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
No charisma.
Indeed. Thank you very much. That brings us to the end of this session of Dr. Kaiser's Perspective. We'll see you next time. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching Dr. Kaiser Netsumba's Perspective podcast. Please subscribe to it and share the content. To contact Dr. Kaiser Netsumba with a business proposal, a comment, or a suggested topic, write to the email address kaiser@kaisernetsumba.com. Again, that was kaiser@kaisernetsumba.com.